Hey guys, this is last part of our Note app. Let's continue. Before we start, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe as it really helps out the channel. Let's implement this button to work with our app theme block. First, we wrap this app icon button with block consumer. Change this block to our app theme block. In the listener, we don't use it. For stat, we let map the app theme stat and return a widget based on dark mode and light mode. In here we use app theme block twice, so it's better to define an app theme block as a variable. Like this. On press function, just add a theme mode chain event based on theme mode. Now the to go theme button seems working. Let's go to our main.dark and wrap our material app widget with our block consumer and use the app theme block here. We only need to add a property theme mode and map our stat by return a theme mode. Now our app theme mode is working fine. Next, let's work on our node block. Create a new block called node. In node stat, we have view type. The view type should be an enum. I will call it node view type. Let's create an enum folders. In this enum folder, we create a new file called node view type. This node view type has a list and a grid type. In here, I create two getters that return a boolean for easier to check the condition of our stat that use node view type. We have another stat called nodes, which is the list of node item, and then we have current page, we have a slash is a boolean to check if the current page is or the last page or not. We have a status state which has a data status enum type, and we have a message as a string. For this data setter, let's create an enum too. In this data status, we have many status like so, and we also have getters method for each type too. Let's create another getter too to check if we currently have the node data or not. To use a getter method in Freeze, you must add an initialize method like so. This should be node state. We create another factory with names initial to initialize our state. Type will be a list. Nodes should be empty list. Page should start with 1. Its last page is 4, and status should be initial. Message should be empty. Back to block, we start with our initial state. For event, we have this event in our home screen, which are to go utype, to go utype, to go u of our list. Started use when we first visit our home screen. Refresh when we use pull to refresh. Load more when we scroll down to the bottom. Delete when we swipe our list from right to left to delete. And filter node is for update node state of our home screen when use it inside another block. Let's create a filter data type. With these 3 types. We will update nodes data based on these 3 types. First, let's implement our to-go utype event. Here we only need to update utype to list when the current state agrees or vice versa. For started event, first we check if our current state is loading, then do nothing. Or else set status to loading and get nodes from the page 1. In this block we need node repository. Let's define it as a private. Let's make this node repository as required. And initialize this node repository like so. This get first page function is to get nodes from API on the page 1 and send nodes to our state. This function will be used twice, that's why I write it in another function to avoid code duplication. Let's register our node block in main files. In here we access node repository where content.read to avoid create a new node repository instance every time. and we can call a start event here. The start event will be called once whenever you access the node block. If you want the start event to call immediately, just add lazy property to false. Here our response log. Let's working on our table view tab button. I wrap this button with block selector since we only interact with a single state view type. In this selector, we return back the view type state. In here, we just check if the state is grid or list. For on-press handler, we call toggle view type event. Now we have real nodes data from API, so let's work on our list view. We use block consumer here with node block. If the current status is loading, we display a loading indicator. We must return back a silver widget. In here we use silver fill remaining widget. Let's create a blank content widget. In this blank content widget is just display loading indicator when it is loading, or else just display an icon with a text. In here let's set its loading to true. Now loading content is working. Let's check if our node is empty and let's return back the empty content. For our list, first we check if view type is grid, return the node grid, or else return the node list. Let's working on node item widget color first. Our color response is stored as a hex color and string, and we need a way to convert this color to our Flutter color. Let's create an extension color called hex color to convert back and forth to Flutter color. And we also need to format our datetime. Let's create a util to format our datetime too. Replace this color by using our hex color extension that we just created. Replace this to hex color dot from hex node color. For that time, let's format it like so. On dismiss function, call the delete event from our node block by passing the node ID as the parameter. On delete event, we must delete the state immediately to avoid problem with the dismissible widget, since it is required to remove the item immediately. Make sure to provide keys on each node item widget. I will work on this on Node.js later. We do the same thing in the node grid. Now our list is working good. Next, let's work on pull to refresh. Wrap our custom scroll view with refresh indicator widget. Our refresh function just call our refresh event from node block. On refresh event, just set stat to refreshing and call the get first page function to get the new node data again. Now our pull to refresh is working. Let's add loading indicator to floating action button whenever the node is refreshing or loading more. And we disable this button too. Also change the button background based on the state. Let's move on to load more feature. To check if the scroll view is at the button, first we must use scroll controller with our custom scroll view widget. I create a scroll controller as private. Let's initialize our scroll controller like so. Don't forget to dispose the scroll controller. To notify that the scroll view is at the bottom, we use notification listener. With the type is the scroll notification. On notification, we return a function that return false to allow the notification listener to continue fire the callback on notification. In here, this is how we check if the scroll is toward the bottom. Then we fire the load more event from our node block. On load more event, first we check if the status is currently loading more, or it is less, then we do nothing. Or else we set the status to loading more. Our next page should be increased by 1, and then we send to our service API like so. If we get the data from our response, then we append our new nodes to our current node like so. Or else we set the last page to true. Let's test it out. Everything seems working fine. Next, let's work on add new node screen. We have a normal app bar with a delete button when the node is editing. We have two input. We have one color picker and we have one floating action button. Let's create an add node block first. In add node stat, we have status is the data status, message as a string. We have a node as a node item. This node can be null. If this node stat is not null, it means that we are editing. For initial state, status is initial. Message is empty string. And node is null. We create a getter called hasNode to check if the node is null or not. And another getter is processing to check if the status is deleting, updating or submitting. Start with initial state. For add block event, we have create, update, delete, and set selected node. Create takes create node request as parameter. Update takes update node request as parameter. Delete take a node ID, and selected node take node as parameter. In add node block, we need node repository. And we also need node block to update node list. On set selected node, just simply set the node state value. Let's work on add node UI real quick. First, I check if the node is editing or creating new. Just check the current state has node or not. Let's fix those on NodePress function. Just call an event set selected node in add node block. And we push the screen to add node screen. I forgot register add node block. Let's register it real quick. Now on NodePress is working. Let's work on add new node button. Just push to add node screen and be done. In here we still see update a node because we didn't clear the node stat when the screen is popped, so we must clear the node stat when the screen is unmounted. In add node screen, convert this add node screen to stateful widget. First, we must store our add node block in a variable so we can use it inside this post function later. Then in this post function, just set the select node to null. Then it should be working. If we are editing the node, we need to show the delete button. For on press, let's use show confirmation again. If it is true, we call the delete event in add node block. For the body, let's use single chart scroll view widget and add some padding. And each chart for form, I use Reactive Form. If you don't know how to use Reactive Form, you can visit their GitHub website or pub. After that, in add node block, I create a getter form group that return a form group class. In this form builder group, take a map as a first parameter This map is a string object pair. The string is the form control name that we will provide in our text field letter. The object is the form control. You can write it in a short form like this. The first value is the default value. The second value is the validators. For color, we use form control like so by providing the type out as the color. I set a blue color as default value. In these validators, you can set many validators in here. Let's set default value for form control when the node is not null. For color, we use H color from H to convert H to Flutter color. Our form group now is finished. Let's provide our reactive form with form group that we just created. For text fields, let's create a reusable text field. Reactive Form has a built-in widget called Reactive Text Field. There is only one property that is required, is form control name. This name must match with our form group control name that we just created. We add some default style with input decoration and default validation error message if the text field is required. I add next focus control name to focus next input when the text input is submitted. And another property is seem normal. Let's use this app text field. Again, control name must match that one in form group we just created. Now it's work. But we need to close the keyboard when we click outside the input. To do so, we wrap our scaffold with gesture detector. For on tab, we just unfocus of the current focus scope. Now the keyboard is closed as expected. Next is content text field. we give make line to file. To focus next import, we must provide two properties. One is form group. It takes the form group class. Another one is the next focus control name. Is the next focus text field that you want to focus next. Next, we use Reactive Block color widget. This widget is a custom widget that built on top of color picker package. What last is the floating action button. Just so icon based on editing state. Now let's lock our form group value. This happens sometimes when we keep editing on the screen. Make sure to go back and forth to the screen or reload the app. To check form group is invalid based on our validation, just check it with the form group dot invalid. If it invalid, just call mark all as touch method to show the validation message on invalid text field. Let's wrap button with add node block. Then we can use update or create based on has node state. Let's check our request is correct or not. In update node request, let's create another name constructor from form group. In here I make a mistake a bit. This constructor just filter the Flutter colors to hex color and return back the update node request. In create node request is the same. Then in here just call from form group. And then call update event with the update request and node ID from add node block. In listener, let's display some message when the state is processing success or error. In dialog, let's create a soul snake by message function. Then use it here. If status is error, let's give the color to red. If success, we display the message and pop the screen. Is processing, we just show the message processing. In update, we just send those values to our API service and update message is it success or fail. In case it is success, we need to filter node data by call filter node event in node block like so. By passing the data back. Update service return back the updated node from the response. Let's work on filter node event in node block. This event just update the node based on the filter data type. In delete case, we remove the provided ID from node. In update case, first we find the index from the node where the node ID is the same as the one we provided. If the index doesn't equal to the -1, it means that the index is valid. Then we update the node of that index. In create case, we just need to add new node on top of our node lasso. Then we set the new node. Let's test update node. Now update node is working. On delete node is like so. It is the same pattern like the update event. On create is also the same. Let's test it out. Alright guys, that's all for this video. Hope this video is useful to you guys. Thanks for watching guys. Please subscribe to my channel as it helps to motivate me to do more videos in the future. Thank you.